Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here, welcome back to the railway. It is Christmas special time, which means it's time to make something. I want to make something Christmassy, I want to make something entirely unique, and of course, because it's this channel, I want to make something a little bit crazy. The fact that it's Christmas time is a great excuse for me to create something stupid and daft and balmy without getting into trouble for not being a proper modeler, because I'm normally one of those, obviously. So today I've had an idea. It's a Christmassy idea. I want to create a Santa's sleigh with a reindeer. And I want them to look nice, so they've got to be nicely painted. That's the second goal. And of course, because it's Sam's Trains, it's got to work on a model railway. This is the stupid part. So the sleigh and the reindeer, they've got to have wheels, okay, so they can roll. And also the front part, probably the reindeer, has got to have a coupling of some sort so that I can couple a loco to it and haul it along. Maybe even a NEM coupling, a reindeer with a NEM coupling. That's my idea. So it's going to be a great design challenge, I think. I don't know whether I'm up to actually creating this, but I'm willing to try. So let's get to designing this thing. And by all means, you feel free to follow along at home if you want to. SketchUp is completely free to use, and even if you don't own a 3D printer, it can still be a lot of fun to do the design work. So by all means, give this a try. So this is ever so slightly terrifying. I've designed lots of things before, but I've always had some sort of reference photo to base it on. Today I've got absolutely nothing, just the knowledge of roughly what a Santa sleigh looks like and the different films and TV shows and pictures that I've seen in the past of a Santa's sleigh. So with that, I'm getting started with the first part, or what I think the first part should look like. Straight out of the head, it is the runner and the brackets at the bottom of the sleigh, and they are the things that obviously sleigh through the snow and they support the sleigh body. And I'm adding on these curved brackets, which I think look quite nice and streamlined. And then hopefully they're going to have a little clip on them so that later on, when I've designed the sleigh body, it will fit onto those. And just to make this thing look a little bit nicer and a little bit more sleigh-like, I'm giving this a decorative curve at each end for that classic sleigh look. And now it's time to give it some dimension, so I've gone with a couple of millimeters thick, nothing too thick. And of course these are the parts that need to hold the wheels and the axles, so I am building bearings into these. The sleigh is just going to have 2 axles, 4 wheels, and I'm using the standard dimensions that I've used on my wagons to create the bearings, so I know this should work if I get the distance between the bearings right. So to make sure the axles are going to be held in the right position accurately, I need 2 identical but flipped runners so that I can set the spacing correctly so that they'll hold the wheels properly, and then I can base the body design of the sleigh around that sort of dimension. So with that, let's get started with the body. I think the big thing with this is just getting the general shape right. So I'm using the size of the runners and such that I've already created for reference, and I'm just going to draw out a general 2-dimensional shape for the body. I'm using lots of trial and error here. Some of the shapes I'm drawing don't look as good as I want them to, so I'm going back, I'm changing things. It is quite a complex shape, of course. It's got a lot of different curves, so I am spending plenty of time just trying different ideas before settling on a shape that I'm happy with. So finally, I've got this. I think that looks pretty good. I think we'll leave it at that. That's a good starting point. And it's time to give this piece some dimension, and I'm also adding a bit of a frame around the border just for a bit of extra depth. I think that'll look really nice, and I could perhaps paint it a different colour maybe. That's a good idea. So it's time to start converting this shape into a full body. So the first job is duplicating this for the left half of the body, and then I'm selecting the areas that I want to connect together, and it's very easy to drag them together to complete the overall shape. And how surprising is that? It's surprisingly easy to create a sleigh. Obviously though, it does need a seat, and I'm hoping to use this seat area to create a compartment really for the presents to go into behind the seat. And I also want to create a seat back with a fair bit of detail and depth, because obviously Santa's got to have somewhere to sit. So I've created a sort of slope effect at the back, and I want it to look like the back of the seat is made of wood. So I'm rounding the tops of the seats, which I think looks pretty nice. And then I'm going to put in a bit of a wood paneling effect between each piece of it. And actually I think that looks pretty good with the varied height as well. And then finally, for a little bit of flair, I've decided I'm going to put some lamps on the front of the sleigh just to help light the way, of course. So one lamp on each side. I think this would also look nice if I painted them a different colour, so maybe I'd paint them black or something. If the scale was a bit larger, it would be nice to put some LEDs into them, but I think that might complicate things just for a simple project. But there we go. I think maybe they're a little bit small, those lamps, but hopefully they will print okay and do the job. So the entire sleigh is printing all in one go, which is quite brave, but it seems to be doing okay. So it's just the two different runners and then the body, making just 3 parts in total. That's nice and simple. Hopefully this thing will come out okay. Okay, it's finished, and it didn't take very long, to be honest with you. I've not had a chance to look at this properly yet, but to be honest, to say it's quite a complex piece, I can't see anything wrong with it. Look at that. Everything's come out really nice, some nice little details on there. Can't see any visible imperfections or anything. That looks really decent. It makes me think I could make Christmas decorations and stuff. Of course I could, that would be fun. Then we've got the sleigh parts. Yeah, these are the parts that are going to hold the sleigh up and of course hold the wheels as well. So I suppose what I really need to do is do a test fit and see if these actually fit in the right place. So, which way round does this go? It's a bit confusing. All right, so I think it's like this. So these should fit. Oh yeah, look at that. Perfect, straight away. Let's see if this one does as well. You never quite know with the fits because there is always a bit of tolerance. Okay, there you go. There is the sleigh complete. Oh, that is super cute, isn't it? Wow. And then of course if I want to I can put wheels in as well, although it would be a shame to do that almost, wouldn't it? I suspect I might need something like a crossbar that ties these two together to keep the wheels in place, but let's just try it. Yeah, they're not held in very well, but I suppose it might roll. Yeah, this is one of those ridiculous ideas, isn't it? But no, that's all right. Yeah. So what I need to do is have a crossbar across here or something so that when the wheels are in it, it will hold them together a little bit. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Right, so I'll glue everything together now that we know it works, and then I'll go and pop some primer on this so that I'm ready to paint it in a day or so's time. So I've put some glue onto the sleigh parts and hopefully those will glue together and be nice and sturdy, and I don't want to be messing around with that too much now. I just need to leave it and let the glue dry. So now it's time to move on to the reindeer. I mean, fingers crossed I can actually create something that somewhat resembles a reindeer. If not, then this whole project is going to fall apart. So wish me luck, let's get to designing one. So I'm starting off with the rear leg of the reindeer. Don't ask me why, it just seems like a sensible place to start. And I'm going to base the entire reindeer from this back leg. So I'm just getting the relative scale right to start with. That's all I'm worrying about, just making sure each leg sort of looks like it belongs with the other legs. And then I'll scale the whole thing with the sleigh a little bit later on. I'm designing all of this at 10 times the actual size for better results in SketchUp, and thank you very much to the viewers who suggested this. That was a good idea. Okay, add some depth. That makes a fairly decent looking leg, I think. Now for this, I am going for a sort of wooden rocking horse aesthetic because I think that's pretty Christmassy and I've got fond memories of that sort of thing. I just really like the style as well. So it's going to be built like you would build a basic rocking horse, and that should make the modelling a little bit easier as well. So the back legs are now complete, so it's now time to create the front ones. Again, I'm doing this with just lots of trial and error. It is taking a little bit longer to get the shape that I'm happy with, but I think this is pretty much it. It's not amazing or anything, but I think it does the right job, doesn't it? So now that all of the legs are done, it is time to take a look at the scale, because once I design the bearings for the wheels onto these legs, still can't get over that I'm doing that, it won't be possible to do any more scaling because then the wheels won't fit. So I'm putting on the same simple bearings. These are tried and tested with my wagons, so again I know they're nice and free rolling. And now, much like the sleigh body, I'm starting to design the reindeer body. Now, as per that wooden rocking horse technique that I've talked about, the body is going to be a sandwich of 3 different parts. The 2 outer layers are going to be the main torso, and then there's going to be a 3rd inner layer which is going to be identical to the outer layers, except it's going to have the head and the tail added onto it to give the body the illusion of depth, and also so that the head is not massively wide, so that we've created an alien instead of a reindeer. So as you can see, the general body shape seems to have come together quite nicely, so now it's time to start converting it into a proper body. So I'm putting the 2 outer layers into place so that they fit nicely against the legs, and now it's time to start working on the middle layer. So my first job is to design the head, and this is the part that I'm not feeling so good about, because obviously it's a biological creature. I've never designed anything like this before. Everything else I've done is very structured, it's man-made, it's a wagon, it's made of wood or metal. Yeah, this is very, very different. Therefore, in order for this not to look weird or terrifying, I'm trying lots of different ideas once again before settling on a design. I mean, this one instance looks like Robbie the Seal from Pingu, which is definitely not what I'm going for. And it's also way too small looking at it. It's like a little tiny pinhead, so I've got to change that. Changing the shape very slightly, and I'm hoping when I add eyes, a mouth, and also some antlers to this, then the effect will be right. I guess only time will tell. So for the tail, again, it is taking a little bit of time to get the tail looking right. The tail, of all things, yeah, it's taken me a long time at this point to get this thing right, but I think it will be okay. I shouldn't worry about it too much, because when it's combined with everything else, I think the illusion will be sold. Now, I've just remembered that reindeer have ears. Yeah, I know a lot about animals. So I'm bugging some of those on, and yes, now it looks way better. I think that's what was missing to start with, actually. Okay, so that's the shape done. I'm ready to add some depth to this part now. And I think at this point I can see that the model is really taking shape, so fingers crossed this is actually going to work out. It does look a little bit like a reindeer on steroids if you look at it from a certain angle, but of course you can't do much about this because it's got to be quite wide in order to fit 00 gauge wheels. But if I scale it upwards accordingly so that it doesn't look massively fat, then the model will be impractically tall, and it's already probably not going to make it underneath my bookcase or my footbridge, so I really don't want to make it any taller. So I'm now adding some of the facial features to the deer, and this is actually looking quite cute. I'm getting sort of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer TV special vibes from it, which I really like. And finally, of course, I need to devise a way to fix all of these parts together once they're printed separately. So each piece is going to be fixed into place with 2 pegs, and I'm always going to use 2 pegs because that will prevent the rotation of any parts, and it makes sure they'll always be in the right position, which is quite important when I'm fitting wheels into place. So I've hand drawn this antler based on some clip art that I found, and as a result it's got quite a handmade look to it. It's not intentional, of course, but actually that's perfect for this sort of style, so I'm actually really happy with that. And now I'm just getting the antler orientation, the size and the position right before making a slot into the head for those to fit into once printed. And as long as these are a good fit, of course, I can just glue them into place. And that's it. That is my reindeer design. So now it's time to separate the parts into individual components and print the thing. So this is quite an ambitious thing for the 3D printer to do, because I've slapped all of the parts onto one design and it's printing them all at the same time. It's a bad idea, of course. I wouldn't recommend doing this really if you've got time not to, because if a single part goes wrong, then the whole thing needs to be scrapped. But these are simple parts, there's no overhangs, they're all just blocks. It's a really great way of designing stuff actually, because it's very simple to print. And as you can see, the thing has finished without any problems, which is fantastic. Slight problem though, because there's a huge surface area between each piece and the print bed, and they're stuck fast. So bear with me, I'm going to try and get them off, and then we'll take a look and see if it all fits together. Okay, so I managed to get all the parts off the bed, and oh dear, I did not realise I had created such a jigsaw puzzle. So let's try and put this together. So we'll just try the test fit. I won't glue anything right now. So we have reindeer body, which I'm really happy with actually. It's come out lovely. And that should take these antlers. Is it that way they go? Can't remember now. It doesn't matter. That seems to fit, doesn't it? So with a little glue, that will stay in there. Let's just check the other one. think it was supposed to be that way, wasn't it? Oh. Yeah, so as you can see, with a bit of glue, that will look fantastic. Ooh, nice. And then the body is made up of the 3 parts, of course. So let's figure out where this one needs to go. I think this one might be on the other side. Ooh, I could sell this to parents and stuff. It's like a challenge jigsaw puzzle. So that goes together like that. Again, needs to be glued. That goes together like that. Okay, so we've got a body. It looks terrifying actually. It's like had its legs torn off. And then this is the back leg. Could be that this goes on the other side. Yeah, that goes on the other side. That looks wrong. Yeah, I'm not sure now. I think that's right though. And then that goes on that side. There we go. I'm having to hold these together. Now, the big question is, if I do hold these together, will an axle fit in here, or do I need to make them closer together? I sort of took out 1 millimeter across this length here. I'm not sure if that'll be enough actually, because obviously the parts are crammed together. So let's see. Oh no, I think that's fine. Oh, nice. That is ludicrous. What a ludicrous object. Nice. Okay, and then haven't got enough hands to do this properly really, but that's supposed to go, bear with me, I'll show you properly in a second, on there like that. Hopefully you get the right idea. And then that one is supposed to fit on there like that. Yeah, so that's sort of what it looks like. I'm going to glue this together in a second, and then you've got the NEM coupling thing, which is going to fit into these slots here like so. And is that going to fit? I might have to knock that together actually before I glue it. But yeah, I think that will be fine. Before I go ahead with the primer, I've just got to show you this. Isn't this the most ludicrous rail-mounted object you've ever seen? I think it's just because it's actually decently made. You know, it's not just cobbled together like the other ludicrous things I've made are. So the more serious it looks, the more ridiculous it is, if you ask me. But yeah, that is awesome and terrifying and bizarre and crazy and everything you can think of at the same time. Okay, well, let's go and put some primer on it. Can't wait till it's painted. So just in case you are following along at home, I am going to go over each step briefly, but I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't want this to get too long and drawn out. Anyway, to paint the sleigh, I'm going to be using the following colours. I'm using black, gold, aluminium and Ferrari red. These are the Vallejo colours, or however you say it. And then for painting the deer, I'm going to be using sea grey, white and also mud brown, as well as a little bit of black as well. So the first step for me is going to be to paint the entire sleigh into the Ferrari red. And it's quite tricky to get an even coat on an object like this because obviously it's got a lot of different faces and sides and things. But I took my time and I managed to get paint all over the whole thing. So I think that's done pretty nicely. It's very nice actually. It's a nice red, that Ferrari red. I like that a lot. Okay, so now I'm cleaning the airbrush, and while the sleigh dries, while that red coat dries on the sleigh, I'm going to apply the mud brown all over the deer. Now I'm going to go back and add more detail to both of these models, but right now I'm just putting the base colours on, so that's what I'm doing. The deer was actually an even harder shape to cover than the sleigh, so it took several passes, but now I'm satisfied that the whole model has got an even coat, so that's pretty good. Okay, next step with the sleigh then, I'm now putting some masking tape around the sleigh body so that I can paint the runners into the aluminium colour. Now, I suppose I could have sort of painted all of this stuff before assembly, but the thing is, the primer that I put on makes the parts fatter. It does add, you know, only a fraction of a millimeter or whatever, but it would interfere with the fit. But I don't want to risk messing up the bearings, because if they don't go together in the exact right position, then the thing won't work. So I primed everything and now I'm painting everything once assembled. Anyway, with the masking tape on, I was able to give the coat of aluminium to the runners. It's a lovely paint. The aluminium works incredibly well. And I think now I've got every angle painted, so it's time to remove the masking tape. And then I went over and just did a little bit of hand finishing just to clear up any paint bleed, touch up the aluminium and then touch up the red. And now I'm pretty happy that the finish is perfect. So while this dries, it's time to move back onto the reindeer for a second. And with that, I've popped some white paint into the airbrush. And the idea of this is just to add some white fur around the deer's feet. And basically I'm using the airbrush to sort of transition the white to brown, because that's kind of how real deer look. So yeah, we've got that little gradient. And then to give it a sort of soft white underbelly, if you will, I've decided to add a sort of stripe on the underside of the deer, which comes up towards its breast area and then up around its tail. And again, that sort of gradients out, it fades out into the mud brown. And to be honest, I'm quite happy with that effect. That's quite nice. And then by hand, I've just added a little bit of black paint into the deer's eyes just to make those stand out a bit. I think that effect is absolutely fine. Now, next, I want to decorate the sides of the sleigh. And so to do this, I've come up with a little bit of a clever cheat. I've made these. These are sort of stencils with 3 stars on them, and I've 3D printed these so that they will fit snugly onto each side of the sleigh. So basically, I'm putting that sort of stencil in place, covering the rest of the area with masking tape just to make sure we don't get any paint bleed, and then give that a nice gold layer, as you can see. And here is the effect. I've just done one side right now, but those are the stars, and yeah, it's come out really, really nicely. Very, very pleased with that effect. But I'm not finished with the gold just yet. I also want to paint the frames gold, and so to do that I've got these masks. This is just like a mask that covers up the whole sort of side of the sledge except for the frames. So I can pop those into place and then mask everything else with masking tape just to make sure I don't spray gold where I don't want it to go. And then there we go with the gold paint all around the frames. And now I can pull off the masking tape, and here is the result. That is pretty cool, actually. I'm quite impressed that I didn't get gold paint everywhere and make a huge mess. So that is great. Okay, another process for the deer next then. I think this might be getting close to the end for the deer now. I don't think there's much more to do. Yeah, I want to make some grey hooves on the deer. So I'm masking off the very bottom of the deer's legs, the hoof area, and then obviously using the sea grey, that's the only colour I haven't used yet, to just cleanly paint the hoof of the deer. Are they hooves on a deer? I don't know. Anyway, there is the effect. So you've got the grey hoof and then the white fur that transitions up to the brown. And I think that's quite nice. I'm really pleased with how the deer turned out. Okay, back to the sleigh for the very, very last job, and that is hand painting the lamps. I've just decided it would be easiest to hand paint these rather than trying to mask the area and airbrush it. I mean, the airbrush is a nice tool and it's useful for most things, but I don't think it's good to rely on it for everything, and sometimes it's not actually the most practical thing to do. So hand painting the lamps, it's not bad to practice as well. Yeah, it won't hurt me to practice a bit of hand painting. And there it is, that is the sleigh finished. So to finish off both of these models, I'm now adding just one layer of a satin varnish. I'm never too happy when I've varnished with the airbrush. I mean, I'm sure it will have done the job and provided a sort of protective layer over the paint, but it didn't really produce much of a satin finish, which is something I always wanted to get. So today I've decided to apply a little bit more thickly and also by hand. So we'll see how that looks when it dries. Anyway, here is the finished product. We have Santa's sleigh and a reindeer. Oh, it does look pretty good, to be honest with you, yes. Obviously it's toy grade, it's not a serious model, hopefully I made that clear at the start of the video. But, you know, I've practiced my painting, I've produced something that I'm really going to enjoy having around. It's a lovely decoration at the end of the day, I suppose. Yeah, overall, that's not too bad at all. So, right, let's find out what the other engines make of this. The engines were very surprised to see Santa's sleigh on the railway, but none of them quite knew what it was.
It's a Christmas spaceship. It's King Edward's throne. It's Santa's sleigh. Whatever it may be, it's an unidentified railway object, and according to our book of regulations, it is not allowed to be here. I will dispose of it safely. But it's Santa's sleigh.
Gordon coupled up to Santa's sleigh, and without really thinking, he took it away.
But it's Santa's sleigh.
And he wasn't very careful with it either.
Good riddance.
Well done, team. That's almost everything for this year. And here's the last of the... Oh, where is it, Gordon?
Where's what?
Santa's sleigh.
Santa's sleigh? Give me 2 minutes, okay? Bugger. Shouldn't this thing be able to fly? Hey, what about me? Hey, what about me?
Well done, Percy. I'm glad that one engine has his chimney screwed on properly. Well, I'd better be off now. Everybody, have a very Merry Christmas. Help me. Help me. I've been here for weeks. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't know it was the sleigh. I thought it was a foreign object. No.